Hello everybody, we are back and we're doing a video really similar to what we did a few days ago, but this time instead of it being 5 teams that I wouldn't mind seeing win the Stanley Cup, it's 5 teams I wouldn't want to see win the Stanley Cup. But before we start, I wanted to say please make sure to subscribe to me if you're new to me or the channel. I would love to do this as a career and I put a lot of time into it, so hopefully if you like what you see, please subscribe for more hockey content as the playoffs start. So today, talking about 5 teams I wouldn't want to see win the Cup this year. I did want to say before we start, this is in order of least to most. So number 1 is the team I really wouldn't want to see win the Stanley Cup. But also I wanted to say if any of these teams won it, I wouldn't be just downright angry, throwing my TV or anything like that. At the end of the day, I'm a hockey fan. Yes, I do have a favorite team, and that is the Vancouver Canucks. Of course, the Columbus Blue Jackets, really love them as well. But at the end of the day, I really just love the sport. So while I wouldn't be thrilled, it's okay. So we will get on into it now. And like I said, or I should say, please don't get angry if your team's on this list. Please. I really am not trying to be mean. But anyway, kicking it off with number 5. Just like last time with our number 5 for the teams I'd like to see win the Cup. But this time that I wouldn't is getting controversial yet again. I am picking the Boston Bruins. Boston is one of those teams that I looked through some of the teams that are making the playoffs and I said, I really don't mind Boston, so why is it rubbing me the wrong way if they did win the Cup? I really like Pastrnak, I like Krejci, I like Bergeron, I like Taylor Hall, I like just a lot of what they have, Allmark, and just all these guys, a lot of players that are enjoyable to watch. At the end of the day, though, I think there are a few reasons why I have Boston here at number 5. One, they are a team that's been really good for a while now. There was a stretch 2 or 3 years in a row where they just missed out on the playoffs, but they have not been a very, very bad team in quite some time. And they, of course, have had their fair share of Stanley Cup final appearances, winning one against the Canucks, unfortunately, back in 2011. And just kind of one of those things that if you see a team that has a lot of success in an extended period of time, and maybe along the way they did something to where you don't like a certain player, Marchand for a lot of people, or the fact that they beat your team, just one of those things where you've just seen a lot of success, you're okay with them not winning it. But also, I think, now let me keep you just focused here, a very small minority of Boston fans can be really toxic. Now that's true with every fan base, but the fact that Boston sports have been spoiled for quite some time now, over 2 decades, I really don't want to see Boston put together this all-time great season and then these fans just go crazy, because some of them do. Again, a very, very small minority that are really, really toxic, but I don't want to hear it from them because they will never let us hear the end of it. So number 5, we have the Boston Bruins. Whether that's the controversial or not to you, I don't know, but we'll see. So 5, Boston. Number 4. This one is a wild card here. You're probably not expecting this, but if you watch the channel a little bit, you probably expected them maybe to make the list, and that is the Seattle Kraken. What do I have against the Kraken? Nothing too big here. I just really think that the whole Vancouver-Seattle thing, that they want this rivalry, but also they just play some things some different way. They wanted to raise the Stanley Cup banner that they had when they were the Seattle Metropolitans way back in the day, early 1900s. I thought that rubbed me the wrong way. But also, too, I just think that with Seattle and the whole Vancouver thing, I do think that there is kind of that rivalry spreading. As a fan of the Canucks, I liked having Vancouver have that sole kind of interest in the Pacific Northwest. That made me happy, that being the only true team besides like San Jose further down in California, and then of course Calgary and Edmonton out east. So I really love that aspect for us. When they came in, I'm not bitter about it, but it's just one of those things that I will say, I think the rivalry will heat up in the coming years, and just some of the comments that they've made, especially with the banner and stuff like that isn't theirs, I'm just not about it. And for a team that is so young, after seeing my teams not be having a lot of success, I don't want Seattle to go in year 2 go out and make a run. Are they capable of it? I don't know. That's kind of one of those things where you wonder. They've had some struggles against playoff teams or playoff caliber teams, especially since February, so I don't exactly think this will happen. But for most fans, they just go quite a while without seeing their team win it all. For Seattle fans, I just don't want them to do it in year 2. That's what I'll say there. So not controversial, hopefully. But yeah, coming in at number 3, this might be a little bit more controversial, might not be that controversial. Really just depends. I know I have some followers from this team. That is the Colorado Avalanche. Now, the Avs are a club, if you would have told me, when they're in that rebuilding phase, that really rough rebuilding stretch, that I wouldn't have wanted them to win a Stanley Cup, I would have been really shocked because I don't have anything crazy against Colorado. And, you know, I've had a soft spot for Landeskog and those guys for a while since they've come into the league. But at the end of the day, they were a team that for the past 4 or 5 years has been really good. And they've been a team for a little bit now, too, where you expected them to win the Stanley Cup. So when they were just mowing through the competition, it wasn't that fun for you if you were on the opposing end of it, and I'm sure a lot of fans can say that they were. And for the Avalanche, of course, they got their championship, and that's that. I really would be okay if they didn't win another one for a while. I do like a lot of the guys on their roster. Again, I will state that. But a weird thing is Nathan MacKinnon. He is a guy that is a tremendous leader, I think, in a lot of ways, but at the same time, I think he would come off as a word that I'm not going to say on here to stay family friendly. And I know people will say the true competitors are like this because they want to win. At the end of the day, though, I do think he takes it a little bit overboard, and there's other guys that have shown they're capable of winning championships and not being as intense as he is. But again, I don't even have an issue with him as a person or whatever. Just one of those things where it's like, oh, okay, these stories are a little bit crazy. So let's say that he's had his cup, and I'm all right waiting a little bit for it. Now, coming in at number 2 is a team I don't think many people would be surprised about here, and that is the Tampa Bay Lightning. Of course, they just played the Colorado Avalanche in the Stanley Cup, and they lost to the Avalanche, ending their hopes for a three-peat. And I thought about this for a while. Last year was kind of weird because I wanted Tampa Bay to win again and get the three-peat, namely because it would have been kind of neat to see, but also at the same time, my channel, every postseason that we've been around for, it had been Tampa Bay that had won the Cup. So I was kind of hoping to keep this trend going and seeing how long it could last. Of course, Colorado broke that streak, and for me, I got to thinking about it again. A team that's been really fun for a long time to watch, but at the same time, your team's probably been on the business end of what they've been able to achieve. They have had multiple trips to the Eastern Conference Final. They, of course, have had 3 straight Stanley Cup final appearances, winning back-to-back championships. While I would say that I wouldn't mind them winning another one, because I think for the Lightning, they really have a support group that the attendance isn't bad. I know people say Emily Arena is really quiet or whatever, but for them and hockey in the South, this is really great to see, to be able to have that success. But I will say at the end of the day, we were talking about these Cups being legacy boosters for guys like Stamkos and Hedman, etc. They've got 2 Cups now, and they've been one of the best teams for over a decade. I would be okay if they didn't win another Cup for, again, kind of a while. So we'll see what happens there. For them in the Bolts, another team that very well could go on a run and possibly win another championship. But I do wonder if their window is closing a little bit, but we'll see. And coming in at number 1, I don't think this is too controversial, but I guess we'll see if there's any nasty comments. That is the Vegas Golden Knights. And Vegas, a team that, since they've been in the league, has not been bad. They've missed the playoffs one time. That was, of course, last year while they dealt with some injuries. I don't even know where to start with Vegas. I don't hate the team. And again, I don't even necessarily hate a lot of the players. I just think it's one of those things where the fans really got entitled early on for these big runs, for a chance to hunt for the Cup and to have flashy names. You got to think, Vegas is a team that has some players you could only dream of, or would make trades you could only dream of. Is it going to be a problem in the long term? Very well could be, especially with the contracts they give out and the picks that they give up and all that. But for me, thinking back to this, they've really owned Vancouver since they've come into the league, and they're a club that has had their fair share of runs. They've been to the conference final multiple times. They've been to the 3rd round, I guess you could say, back when the Spicy Cough tournament was going on. But for me, I just don't want to see it yet. They haven't been around long enough. They haven't had a bad spell. And I think for the fans, it would just be insane for them to get this Cup before you have to go through the heartache of the bad years. If they get it, I'm really happy for their fans, because it's not the fans' fault that the team is doing so well. But for myself, being just devastated and being able to see what they've been able to do over the past 5 seasons, I don't want to see it. But we will see. I think people in Buffalo would lose their minds too because of the whole Eichel thing, but kind of just more stuff to this between that future possible rivalry. We'll have to see. But anyway, those are 5 teams that I didn't want to see win the Stanley Cup. Again, keep in mind, I'm okay if they win. I don't want your nasty comments. If you're a passionate fan, that's okay. I just don't want you to be mean to me, all because I said I wouldn't want to see them win it. But if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to like this video. And of course, if you have thoughts about it, 5 teams maybe you wouldn't want to see win the Stanley Cup, I'd love to hear those thoughts down below in the comments as well. Also, please make sure to subscribe if you want to see more hockey content from me, as I'm going to be busy with the playoffs coming up, with playoff previews once we get all that stuff squared away. So anyway, please, of course, like, subscribe, etc., blah, blah, blah. Everybody stay safe, have a great night, and you will love hockey all right. Goodbye, Brigadiers and Brigadettes. This is your captain signing off. Have a great night.